measures taken to secure beneficiaries from the loss of death gratuity following the winding up of the NHIF, and 4, the plans and timelines for immediate remittance of RAS expense and death gratuity to the affected beneficiaries and families, particularly the family of the late Moses Muturi Dwega of PF number 20090000918. I thank you, Honorable Speaker. And we should not be coming for statements again and again, Mr. Speaker. The Ministry of Health, they have the responsibility, the PSs, we have several PSs there. We have a minister, we have directors. They cannot be able to answer a statement within 1 or 2 weeks. This statement was issued in last year in September, and up to now, March, there is no answer which has been given. It's a shame, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable, is it Osoro or Baya who is going to be? Honorable Osoro, now that you have the Deputy Majority Leader, would that still be in the purview of the whip?
Yeah. On this particular one, Honorable Speaker, without really letting the cat out of the bag, I do not really want to disappoint the Honorable Rocco, but the Committee on Health is one of the committees that, and as I said, without really letting the cat out of the bag, that is being reconstituted, and the names will be tabled here possibly tomorrow by God's grace, or on Thursday. And that then means that the committee will proceed for elections to elect the chairman and the vice chair. So because of that short period of transition, I'll request the Honorable Rocco to be a little bit patient, perhaps 2 weeks or so, or 3, so that we are able to have a well-constituted committee that will handle the matter amicably.
Fair enough. You say that the answer will be available in 2 weeks' time? 2 weeks, basically. The presumption is this week. Before the end of next week, you have it. Then we'll not have gone for recess yet.
I want to be very practical. With the reconstitution of the committee, then it means they have to do elections within 7 days. If the names will be tabled on Wednesday or Thursday, we give them 7 days to reconstitute, to do elections of the chair and the vice chair. And then now, setting their agendas and such will require practically 3 weeks. Because also there is a session, we also do not want to lie to our colleague and tell him, in a week's time you'll have the answer. When we practically know that there is no committee on health, it is part of the committees that will be reconstituted by Thursday, and then they proceed for elections within 7 days. And the question is directed to the chairman.
Yes, the Honorable Ruku.
Honorable Speaker, as I have mentioned, this is not a new statement. I have not changed even the wordings. And therefore it means the bureaucrats at the Ministry of Health, they have full information. They should give a direction, Honorable Speaker, that the clerk of this House can direct the Ministry of Health. As soon as the committee is constituted, they are able to transmit the answers of the 4 questions asked in this statement with immediate effect. Because it's a statement which has been with the ministry from September last year to now. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, the Honorable Baya.
I hear Honorable Roku's frustration, and I share in his frustration. And I want to commit that in 2 weeks' time, Honorable Ruku, you will have a statement that answers the questions that you raise. Much obliged, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, the Honorable Member of Parliament for Kajiado North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, through Standing Order number 1, I also want to request you that some of the issues that have been raised three of them, some of the three statements that have come, four actually, including the one on security, are issues that cross-cut. Continuously, now the office of the majority leader does not provide when the CSS are going to come before this house, because some of the issues that are coming up, we should put the specific CSS and those PSS to task. And because we have an opportunity to call the PS, since this session started, the majority leader has not provided a schedule. Because, Mr. Speaker, for instance, the issue of pensions has become a thorn in the flesh, and continuously the CS does not reply to letters that are coming before this house. Likewise, this issue that the Honorable Ruku has raised, I wrote a letter, but it was dropped down because the question that he had was before his. So I want to request you that the office of the majority leader, even as you do your many things around the country, you also need to take the work of this National Assembly very serious, so that you provide the schedule. It is your role. Especially the Honorable Wenbai, you are constituting committees, you are forgetting that you have a bigger job to make sure that the CSS come before this house.
Fair enough. I direct that this statement be delivered within 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, which means in the course of next week.
Much obliged, Honorable Speaker, but I also want to tell the Honorable Gogoyo that CSs will only come to this house if there are questions, not statements. And what the Honorable Ruku has presented is a request for a statement, which is brought to this house through a certain process, a procedure. So if the Honorable, the Honorable Gogoyo is one new member who has refused to learn procedure. I don't know how he was in high school, but I have my doubts. But I want to say this, Honorable Gogoyo, you don't write a letter to Parliament. You bring a question on the floor of the House or a statement on the floor of the House, and when it is a question, the Honorable CS will come, for which we have a schedule. So Honorable Gogoyo, please, for the sake of gallery or any other thing, please be parliamentarian. Be a parliamentarian that knows procedure, knows standing orders, knows the Constitution, so that we transact business without back and forth. You owe this House the duty of care that we move forward, instead of just bringing things, feigning ignorance of the standing orders that are here. Please, we want to move forward. That ignorance does not help this House. Neither does it help you, neither does it help you on the ground. It makes you look very bad by your people knowing that you know nothing about the proceedings of this House.
Order, Honorable Deputy Majority Leader. Honorable Doris Donya, MP, Kisii County, is seeking a statement from the Minister of Transport, Committee on Transport.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request for a statement regarding the utilization of the fuel levy fund. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 42C, I rise to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Transport and Infrastructure regarding the utilization of the fuel levy fund on maintenance, rehabilitation and development of the country's road network. Honorable Speaker, the fuel levy, also known as the Road Maintenance Levy Fund, is primarily used to finance the maintenance, rehabilitation and development of the country's road network. This levy is collected per liter of fuel consumed. I repeat, this levy is collected per liter of fuel consumed. Recent increases in the levy have been implemented to address a significant backlog in road maintenance and to settle debts owed to road contractors. Honorable Speaker, even though 80% of the fuel levy is sourced from road users, the condition of most roads across the country remains poor, characterized by potholes, inadequate drainage, and stalled projects. The public rightfully expresses that the revenue from the fuel levy should lead to improved road infrastructure. However, this expectation has not been met. Concerns have been raised regarding the accountability of the relevant ministry in allocation and disbursement of these funds, including skewed distributions across the country. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Transport and Infrastructure on the following. 1. A report on a total collection and use of fuel levy for the maintenance, rehabilitation, and development of the country's road network over the past 3 years, including details of the specific roads. Steps implemented by the ministry to ensure transparency and accountability in the expenditure of the fuel levy fund. 3. The criteria used to prioritize road maintenance and construction projects funded from the fuel levy. 4. Measures put in place to ensure timely completion of road projects funded from the fuel levy. And last, the status of disbursement of fuel levy fund between the national and county governments, and whether counties are sufficiently funded to maintain the roads under their jurisdiction. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I don't know if I can make one statement about this. I've asked for 5 statements in this House. I've been given null and void answers. For this one, I will wish the Committee on Infrastructure to give me an example of a road in Kisii which has been maintained last year from the fuel levy, because all the roads in Kisii, majority of them in Kisii County, are in a bad state. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Bayer, the Deputy Majority Leader.
Honorable Speaker, while I acknowledge that we may have to give us 2 weeks to sort out her issue, and which is actually in order, the period that we request is 2 weeks, and we'll ensure that the Committee for Transport responds to your energy and both energy and transport responds to your question. But also, Honorable Speaker, just to let my good sister, very able women rep from Kisii, who has handled lions and gorillas, that you do not debate your own statement if you've read it. We have heard, very clear. But procedure is very clear that you don't start debating a statement that you just have read. Simple procedure of the House. We've heard you, and don't debate your statement. Thank you.
Order, my Majority Leader. Order. Madam Donya, you've made your point. You can all. What is it? What's the point of order? Proceed.
Honorable Bayer is telling me that I've debated. Does he understand the difference between debating and just stating something? I stated. I didn't debate. English, I know you are used to Kiswahili. Come for lessons from me.
Yes, the Honorable Kibageni, what's your point of order?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. It is becoming increasingly concerning that the Majority Leader continually belittles concerns of members here and tries to hide behind standing orders and procedures. And I can see he's not even listening. I'm glad that he's being informed in Kiswahili so that he can get to understand.
Order, Honorable Osoro. Order. You are in the leadership of the Parliament, and there's an important issue being raised and questions directed at you or concerns, and both of you are engaged in another small kamukunji. Proceed, Kibageni, and listen to what Kibageni raises, the concerns.
Yeah. My concern goes to the Majority Leader and the Majority Whip, that they continue to belittle concerns of members, the questions and statements that are being made in the House by members representing their constituencies and Kenyans at large, whereby particularly the Majority Leader today, Honorable Bayer, who has belittled our honorable women representative from Kisii County, and other members who have raised concerns this afternoon. We request that sometimes we try to be serious. While you try to hide behind standing orders and procedures, you need to have some decorum in the way you respond to members. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, the Honorable Dr. Makali Mulu. What's your point of order?
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. Honorable Speaker, I want to raise two issues where I would be pleading for your direction. The first issue, Honorable Speaker, is the last season I did raise a statement.
Order. Let's dispose of the business that's before us, which is the Honorable Donya's request for a statement. Baya, you haven't given a concrete undertaking on when you'll have the statement ready. Can you say it again if the chair has not heard you? When will you have the statement ready?
I think, Honorable Speaker, very clear that we'll do it in 2 weeks, and the Honorable Lady agreed. In 2 weeks' time, I will inform the committee of
within
energy,
2 weeks, because after 2 weeks the House will be in recess, which means by next week you have to do.
Yeah, but the report will be ready.
Okay, fair enough. The statement will be ready.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and thank you.
Yes, now I can take the point of order by the Honorable Makali Mulu. Proceed. What's your point of order?
Yeah, Honorable Speaker, I was saying I wanted.
And I plead with the chair, with the majority leader and the majority whip to please listen to the honorable members so that you can respond appropriately. Proceed, Makali Mulu.
Oh, yeah, Honorable Speaker, I want to raise two issues which I want your direction on. The first issue, Honorable Speaker, is that during the immediate last season, we raised a question relating to a young man who was electrocuted. And we did agree with the chair of the Committee of Energy that the statement for the ministry was not good enough. And there was need to have a meeting between the CS, the committee, and myself. That has not happened up to now. So I would want to hear, do I now raise a question again, or do we now, what is the way forward? The second matter, Honorable Speaker, is when we went for the parliamentary retreat in Naivasha, the CS, Treasury, made a presentation. And in the same time, he gave a commitment that before the end of the month of February, he will have released money for CDF, more so for bursaries, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, now we are 4th March, 2025. And unless I'm not well updated, I don't think any money has been released to the constituencies. I know the select committee time has elapsed, but we have the leadership of this House, the majority leader. How I wish, Honorable Speaker, that we could be updated on where we are. Why am I raising this matter, Honorable Speaker? Is because I think, Honorable Speaker, the executive has started taking this House for a ride. They give commitments in terms of timelines, they never honor them. I don't know for how long are we going to continue this way, Honorable Speaker. And if we don't really act on some of these issues, Honorable Speaker, this House will become very powerless and will just become a talk show, which I would really want to avoid, Honorable Speaker. So maybe, Honorable Speaker, those two issues I could be updated on or responded through your office, Honorable Speaker. I really appreciate. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the time.
On the first one, regarding the statement that you sought from the Committee on Energy, am I right? They have lapsed, so you have to reintroduce it again. Unfortunately, that's the rules. It was, come again?
The question was responded to, but we were in agreement that it wasn't good enough in terms of the
so the chair at that
so
time
the
had
chair
directed
committed
that
to have a round table meeting either.
Okay.
Yes.
Whip, can you give an undertaking on that round table meeting between the Member of Parliament, the committee, and the Energy Ministry?
Honorable Speaker, similarly, just like I said in the earlier statement, while again I do not want to let the cat out of the bag, the Committee on Energy is again one of the committees that is being reconstituted afresh. And the tables, the names of the members will be tabled here tomorrow or Thursday, Honorable Speaker, if the House Business Committee sits tomorrow. So I want to commit to the Honorable Makali Mulu that give or take, we work within 2 weeks or thereabout, or at most 21 days, and I think he's in agreement because he's a senior member of this House. He understands the procedure. Upon the tabling of the names, you have 7 days to elect the chairman and the vice chair, and then they will start setting the agenda, and then we'll go for a short recess. So let's be practical enough and just say that immediately we come out of recess, we'll make sure that that agenda is first dealt with. That is on the first
Fair enough.
question.
I think that one. What's your point of order, the Honorable Kainan?
Mr. Speaker, the issue of CDF is a very serious issue. Very, very, very serious issue. Mr. Speaker, you remember how we fought very hard to have a fund that was independent from the executive. And when Engineer Karue came up with the CDF, the first CDF, it had a purpose. Mr. Speaker, from the time, and I want the deputy leader of majority and my good friend, the whip, to listen to this. It may not be their mistake. It's our mistake. Mr. Speaker, we passed the budget in June last year. I want the members here just to be practical because this is about your lives. I want you to hear this. We passed the budget in June, July, second month, August, third, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, 10 months. Mr. Speaker, procedurally, all of us here are accountable to those who elected us. All of us here are accountable to the Constitution through our elected representative, and that is the provision, that's what the letter and the spirit of Article 1 says. Mr. Speaker, sadly, I do not know whether we have a committee. I do not know whether members are aware of their rights. We have advertised for bursaries. Yet the CDF committee, the CDF board has not even approved the project proposals from the CDF committees in the constituency. And yet all of us are here. You've been, Mr. Speaker, I'm shocked. Are we really in the right house? Are we really in our senses? Are we really determined to assist the people who have elected us? What we have advertised is not there. The proposals are not there. My brother here, the leader majority, alluded to this a few weeks ago. That has not been addressed. I have been on the neck of the leadership of the National CDF Management Board. Every day they are releasing the approvals. The approvals are not there. What are we saying? We are cheating ourselves. So my good friend, Dr. Makali and cohorts, it is the high time that we deal with the rock elements at the National CDF Board. The approval does not require anything. The money can come later on. Why are they delaying the approval? This is the reason. They want to incite the members against the government. They want to incite you people. That is why they are keeping the approvals. The reason is if you don't have the approval, you see right now all of us are made to look very bad. I look very bad as an elder, Mr. Speaker. I have advertised for this. We have closed a month ago. The money is not there. The approval is not there. Don't I look very bad? Doesn't the government look very bad? Doesn't everybody look very bad? Who takes responsibility? So leader majority. Tomorrow morning, bring a censure motion. It is you people who have appointed those people. The board plus the management. They are sitting, they are criminalizing us, they are wasting our kids, they are creating apathy and hopelessness among the school-going children. This is not fair. In the modern day Kenya today, for somebody to take us round for 10 months without the approval, colleagues, if it was those days, tomorrow morning we'll have a motion to disband that board, to disband the management, and have a new team that will decisively deal with CDF and implement CDF. The CDF we used to have in mind is not what we are seeing right now. So my good friend here, I've raised this in the House Business Committee. Give us the approvals. If truly you care about the welfare of those school-going children who require fees. In particular, Mr. Speaker, where you come from and where I come from. Right now, the temperatures are hitting 40.
Yeah, you have.
Temperatures are hitting 40. Parents are not getting assistance. Students are out of school. Yet here we have put adverts. The money is not there. So I challenge you, leader, if truly you represent the government, can you ask those guys to be accountable to what we have asked them to do? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
There's a lot of interest this matter has generated. Can you listen to one or two more interventions before you? The Honorable MP for Funyula, and then Elachi Beatrice.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Be very brief. Just
Yeah, thank you. I'll be very brief. Honorable Speaker, we have walked this journey for far too long, and we took the CS word very, very clearly, and understand that we will honor his word. We have few months to the end of the financial year, and obviously whatever date we get the money, there's going to be an audit issue that the funds for the particular financial year were not utilized adequately and promptly, and therefore there was no value for money. We just want to urge through the office of the majority leader to find out exactly what is happening. You see, Honorable Speaker, we could actually be in bigger trouble than the country has been made to believe we are. If mundane contribution like CDF cannot be disbursed, and the same applies even the ordinary budgets also, Honorable Speaker, the development budget is not being disbursed, does it mean then we are sinking in a hole every day? This romantic story we are being given that the economy is doing well is just, it's just stories to assuage people, to make them feel good. Honorable Speaker, we need to be told the truth of the matter. Finally, as I conclude, Honorable Speaker, many of the constituencies that have submitted their project proposals for 2020, 24, 2025 have long received the code list. Those that have not received the code list probably had issues with the submission. On that, I can defend the CDF board, I can defend the committee, that where we are is not a problem of their making, it's a bigger problem this country has, which nobody is willing to tell us the truth. The truth shall set us free. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yeah, Elachi Beatrice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also want to just weigh in and say, you know, sometimes, especially right now when the students had come home, they have finished their midterm, they are going back. One of the challenges many of them face, Mr. Speaker, is the children who, especially who are vulnerable, orphans, who know very well it is just through CDF I'm going back to school. But having said that, I believe the CS released money last week, if I am not wrong. And so I think it is the board now that needs to give us clarification or to tell us, after they released the money, have they released? Have they released the code lists? Have they released the AIs so that people can now start going through? For us who had finished, we had checks, we are waiting for them to give us the money so that the checks are also signed. So, Mr. Speaker, it's just a web that needs to be clarified, and I think that's what we need to look at. And I need to tell the board, while we support you, you need to always remember, bursary is the most sensitive thing in this whole thing of NCDF. So you don't joke with bursary. You can joke with development, but bursary for students, it's not right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Rasso, are you also on the same?
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Be brief, very brief.
Honorable Speaker, I want to thank Honorable Makali Mulu for raising this issue. I think we have been going to the CDF board since beginning of the year, and also before we went on the long recess. CDF is not any common fund. It is fund. That's why these young people in the gallery, that's why they go to school. Many places, particularly in those arid and semi-arid lands, and also in the rural areas, people are fully dependent on availability of CDF. So for that reason, I think it is not about the availability of the committees. It is not availability of the board. If funds are available, these are supposed to be funds that should be remitted automatically to the constituency fund managers. So for that reason, Mr. Speaker, I think without really wasting a lot of time and making this house a talking shop, we must be told when are funds available so that we are able to dispense of even with the bursaries. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Osoro Obaya, one of you should take up the... Proceed, Osoro.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this is one of the rare moments, Honorable Speaker, that I remove the hat of Chief Whip of the majority and simply be a member for South Mograng, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, because this issue of CDF affects all of us, and from whichever side one wants to speak from, it's really something that any honorable member should hold dear to their heart, Honorable Speaker. And from the onset, like the Honorable Elachi has said, I want to set the record straight that indeed some money, as per today, Honorable Speaker, has been released to the board, and I hear 30 million is supposed to be sent to every constituency within this week, Honorable Speaker. But that is not the point. The point, Honorable Speaker, that we should actually ask ourselves is the question, is the point of the board and the CEO CDF, Honorable Speaker. When Mr. Yusuf was acting, Honorable Speaker, as the CEO then in the last parliament, and so before this house approved him, he was very competent, Honorable Speaker. He was approachable, he was reachable, he was easily available for members, he was listening. I do not know what happened to him. That immediately was confirmed, Honorable Speaker. The gentleman changed and became something else. That some of the questions that the members are asking here, Honorable Speaker, could as easily be answered by the CEO of the board, Honorable Speaker. But he is not available for members. He is too big. He is turned to be so huge for members. And I think the board is also, is overrunning even the board, presumably, Honorable Speaker. The question is not even the provision or the availability of funds. Even the approvals of the proposals, even upon the release of the 30 million, Honorable Speaker, the amount does not have a vote. You can't spend it. You will have it in the accounts, but the fund managers will tell you that your proposals have not been approved. We are waiting for the approvals from Nairobi. The board hasn't sat. That is the question. We need to redirect our energy to where our pain comes from. And the pain, Honorable Speaker, here is the CDF board and the CEO for the CDF, Honorable Speaker. We need to have them summoned when, of course, eventually we constitute these committees, Honorable Speaker, tomorrow, so that they appear before this House, Honorable Speaker. Because sometimes monies are released from Treasury and the board keeps that money to themselves for a month or 2 or 3. And when they release the funds, Honorable Speaker, they release the funds to the constituencies, but without the vote following the funds. So you have the money in the account, but you can't spend it, Honorable Speaker. This is the question of acting, the question of making somebody substantive, making somebody to hold that office substantively. When Yusuf Mbuno was acting, Honorable Speaker, he was the best. I think we need to have that office, have members or CEOs who act forever. Because these things of having people confirmed and then they behave this way, Honorable Speaker, it's really messy, Honorable Speaker. It is in this point, Honorable Speaker, some of us remove these hats that we hold in terms of just talking on behalf of the majority side and speak as members, because this thing affects us. We've advertised bursaries, Honorable Speaker. We have had our young people fill the forms, Honorable Speaker. It is 3 months. We have no funds. I mean, really, where do you want to defend? Whom do you defend here? I choose to stand in the point of the poor parents in my constituency. I choose to stand in the side of the students, Honorable Speaker, in my constituency. And I say that the board should face the committee and explain what the problem is. I beg to submit, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
Under circumstances in the yes, Owen Baya, you want to add something? Okay, proceed, Owen Baya.
Honorable Speaker,
just before you weigh in on that, Caroli.
The opportunity.
Yes.
I would really want to invite members to pay very keen attention to the budget policy statement with respect to the CDF. The reduction of CDF allocation is at 38 billion. So what we are discussing is just a tip of the iceberg. We have a bigger problem that we will be dealing with in the next few days. This is the only fund that works for the people. This is the only fund that leaves no pending bills. This is the only fund that is not overpriced in terms of procurement. If you study the current budget policy statement, which I have here, I've looked at the 170 pages, and I already have 15 issues to raise. One of them is the reduction of the allocation for CDF at 38 billion. That is the information I want to leave for the House. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Nyamai.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this matter of CDF disbursements is so serious that it cannot be ignored. We have already engaged our constituents. We have gone round all our wards and had students fill forms for bursaries, and it has taken so long. Now we are about, this is the beginning of March, and we did this work in December, Honorable Speaker. I think there is a problem that needs to be discussed very seriously. I'm encouraged to hear the representative, the whip, the Honorable Osoro, saying that 30 million shillings is going to be disbursed to each constituency. So this means that we'll be able to deal with the bursaries. But Honorable Speaker, that is good, and I congratulate the Cabinet Secretary, our former colleague, because he has kept his word, at least for the bursaries. Because he said that he will do it by the end of February, and he has done it, plus or minus a few days. But Honorable Speaker, we have a problem at the board. Even if we get the other monies disbursed by CDF within those few months, with projects that have never been approved, Honorable Speaker, how are we going to deal with this? So I believe that it is time to invite the CEO so that he can face the House, so that he tells us what is it that he does not have. Is it that the good staff that he had, some of them have resigned and left? Is it that there is a problem within the board? Because the way things were being done, the last 12 years, Honorable Baya and others who have been here for the last more than 12 years, we can attest that there is slow motion. Honorable Speaker, there is slow motion at CDF board. We need to know what is the source of the slow motion in CDF. Mr. Mbuno needs to tell us where the challenge is. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Baya, there's a lot of lamentation here. The fact that the members of parliament are complaining and the leadership of parliament is also complaining. Maybe you should now take upon yourself the proactive position of summoning the board. Because in the absence of a committee, the committee has the powers to summon the board and engage the board on these matters. In the absence of pending the composition of the committee, I think as a leadership of the majority party in the House, you have that responsibility to be able to, along with your minority leadership, to call the CDF management as well as the board and level up with them and come back and report to the Parliament, to the House.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to say this about CDF. And I want to urge members here, this CDF, like has been said by Honorable Dr. Makali Mulu, is the only fund that we have that works, that has given us results, that has ensured equity in this country. Those areas that were left behind have been brought forward because we have CDF. And we should not lose sight of the ball on this. We have to come up strongly as members of this House and defend CDF. We cannot allow the management there and the board to play games with CDF. And I want to tell Mbuno and his team, they will not win this war. If they want to play with Parliament on the issue of CDF, then they will get out of the way and Parliament will have its way. Because this is something that is fundamental for the development of this country and the children that many of them are today here in the gallery. So I want to tell the board, in very clear terms, that they have to either follow the highway or get away out of the highway.
Can you use your office?
And I'm coming to that, Honorable Speaker.
To summon them to your office?
I'm coming to that.
Along with the rest of the leadership of the Parliament. I'm talking about the majority leader, the minority leader, and maybe the whips. And then you engage them on that.
What I want to say.
Because if those in authority like you, complain, and every other member of Parliament also complains, then you're not going anywhere. So
I'm not complaining, Honorable Speaker. I'm making very strong statements. I'm not complaining.
But you're complaining about the board and the management.
No, I'm only telling them off. And Honorable Speaker, what I want to say is this, that we will summon the board here.
Yes.
before the House Business Committee, Honorable Speaker, on Tuesday, and they'd rather prepare for that meeting so that they come and explain why.
Fair enough, then you come back and report to the House.
They will come and report. But I also want to inform members that as I sit here, 30 million has been disbursed per constituency as of today. So if you check with your fund manager, you'll realize that you have 30 million. 30 million, you could use the period for the recess, actually the short recess, to actually disburse the bursaries so that we make sure our children are at school. But 30 million, as we speak, is in the accounts of our constituencies.
Fair enough.
I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
That matter is settled. Honorable members, I want to, before you rise on a point of order, I just want to make one or two announcements. I want to appreciate the presence of a number of schools here in the public gallery and the Speaker's gallery. In the Speaker's gallery, we have Machakos Girls High School. We also have in the, and in the public gallery, we have Nairobi Comprehensive School, which is from Embakasi West. In the public gallery, additionally, we have the University of Embu, Manyata constituency, and Mount Kenya University and Kigali University, Mount Kenya University and Mount Kenya University Kigali branch, Thika and Kiambu. I would give an opportunity to, is there anybody from Nairobi? For Machakos, I will give it to a member of parliament from Machakos who would want to say a word or two of encouragement to his own children. There's nobody from Machakos here. Then maybe Kitui would take, Miyamai, you want to say something, or Makali Mulu would say something? Makali, proceed.
Yeah,
proceed and encourage the children of Machakos.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. On behalf of my colleague, who is a member of parliament for where the school comes from, I really want to welcome our children to the Parliament of Kenya and tell them that they must have seen what we do. So we want to encourage them to work very hard so that when the time comes, some of them will be seated here to also serve the nation. I also want to wish them well in their studies, and they need to work as a team with their teachers, parents, and the students. So wish you well as you go back to Machakos. Please, please, please work hard. But Honorable Speaker, now that I've welcomed them to the Parliament, you know I'm the one who raised the issue of the CDF.
One business at a time. Let's just finish the business of the...
So, on behalf of all the members of Parliament from Mukambani,
okay,
best wishes to the school.
How about Nairobi? Any of the members of Nairobi to also give a word of encouragement to Nairobi Comprehensive School? Yes, Elachi Beatrice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also want to really encourage our students, our children, and to tell them that indeed education is an equalizer in your life. And that while you're here, when you look at us, you realize we are just one. But the most important thing is for you now in school, and especially the girls, even those of Machakos and of Nairobi. Take care of yourself. Remember, you just have one card, and that card is your book. That indeed, after that, you will see the fruits. So always learn that education will be your equalizer if indeed you take care of yourself and read smart. Yeah. Read smart.
Fair enough.
Be blessed.
Machakos Girls High School and Nairobi Comprehensive School, you have had these words of encouragement from your members. Now we have University of Embu, Manyata. Is there any member from Embu here today? Or then I would give the opportunity to the MP for the Raqqa. MP for the Raqqa. You come from the same region. Give a word of encouragement to students from the University of Embu who are in the Speaker's gallery.
Thank you very much, gallery. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the people of Embu are actually my neighbors. I come from the Tharaka County, which is just ahead of the great county of Embu. And I'm happy to hear that the students of Embu University are here. And I take this opportunity to welcome them into the House so that they can observe what we do here. First and foremost, they are actually possibly undergraduates. They will soon be qualifying with their degrees, and many of them may actually intend to run and become members of this House. Therefore, mine would be to encourage them to continue studying very hard, to ensure that they are disciplined and that they achieve that which they set out to achieve in life. The students of Embu, welcome. And when you go back, greet the students of Tharaka University, which is also a neighboring university with whom you compete in academics. Thank you so much.
Now that that is done, Mount Kenya University, Kigali branch. I'm made to understand that the chief whip is actually an alumni of Mount Kenya University, Kigali branch. Proceed, Honorable Osoro, and give words of encouragement to your...
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I am actually playing host to the Mount Kenya University School of Law, Kigali. And it is something that, Honorable Speaker, started like a dream. Last we visited the Mount Kenya University, Kigali, Honorable Speaker, with the chairman, Dr. Simon Gisharu. The School of Law had not started. And he carried me along with him as one of the speakers and as one of the people who should actually encourage the students to also register and join the Mount Kenya University School of Law in Kigali, Honorable Speaker. And that is why when they talked to me, Honorable Speaker, that they should be visiting Kenya and see how we operate and visit Parliament, Honorable Speaker, I indeed engaged the leadership of the House, including the clerk, for such permission to be granted, and it was indeed granted. And they are here for an educational trip to study the universities around Kenya and to look at the procedures, that the parliamentary procedures, legislative procedures, Honorable Speaker, that we practice in Kenya. I want to encourage them to study hard and work very hard in practice. I know it's a bit different in terms of the practice systems in Kenya, but there's a lot that one can learn in the Kenyan system, especially on the common law legal system that we practice here, Honorable Speaker, and I want to encourage them to work very hard. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Fair enough, honorable members. Yes, what is your point of order?
Honorable Speaker, I thank you very much. From the outset, Honorable Speaker, allow me to state that we have our collective hearts go out to Malava constituency, where the interment process of our late colleague is ongoing. And we pray...
Order, honorable members. Order, Honorable Baya Owen and Honorable Osoro. When a member rises on such a point of order, is usually raising issues that have something to do with committees, chairs of committees. We don't have ministers in here. In place of ministers, there's the leadership from the government side. Please pay attention when these things are being raised. Don't have your small kamakunjas.
I thank you, Honorable Speaker, for that direction to the leadership of the House. So as I said, our hearts go out to family, friends, and relatives of our departed colleague whose remains are being interred today. We pray that God will provide the fortitude for the family and everybody else to bear. And for Malava constituency, we are with you, we pray for you. Honorable Speaker, for those who have cared to listen to me carefully the last 3 months, I have consistently raised a matter here that touches not just Nyando constituency, but many other constituencies represented in this House. Honorable Speaker, out of agitation of this House, the Speaker so directed the government to carry out a comprehensive appraisal of areas that qualify for hardship allowance and look into how the rest that deserve can be infused into the system, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Makilap and the Honorable Raso, you both come from hardship areas. A matter on hardship areas is being raised. The Honorable Faith, Madam Faith, You can have your kamakunjis in the restaurants and other places, but not in the floor of the House.
Thank
and
you.
The Honorable Ochieng, proceed.
Honorable Speaker, I thank you once again. So, Honorable Speaker, the matter was actually picked by the government. A multi-agency team was formed that went across the country collecting data on hardship areas that were hitherto put off this scheme, Honorable Speaker. Now, that report, which was funded by taxpayers' money, a team that was led by one Sylvester Bolo, attached to the Ministry of Public Service, was taken back to the ministry, and the report has been there the last 1 year. Honorable Speaker, when I started raising the need to have this report be brought before this House 3 months ago, it has been like a moving target. Initially, my friend Honorable Baya was tasked by the substantive speaker to go and bring that report. The report was not forthcoming. I raised it once again, Honorable Speaker, and the majority leader was given the mandate to go and bring that report before this House. I can confirm that more than 50 constituencies deserve to be included into the hardship scheme, Honorable Speaker, more than 50. And that report delved very much onto those areas, Honorable Speaker, with a recommendation, so I heard, to be included into the hardship allowance scheme, Honorable Speaker. Now, whereas the substantive speaker has always asked for this report to be brought before this House, up to date, Honorable Speaker, we haven't seen it. Now, I would be remiss not to mention that the distance between where we are and the office of the Public Service Ministry here is barely 1 minute walk, Honorable Speaker. And why this has to take more than 3 months just for a simple report to be brought before this House, I am bewildered. Honorable Speaker, it is only this House that has the powers to dictate to the government that if such a report has mentioned certain areas to be included, that gazettement should ensue. Only this House can do that, Honorable Speaker. Why it is taking 3 months, the report was unveiled a year ago, and here we are still talking about the same thing, and as is characteristic of government offices where very good reports gather dust without any execution, Honorable Speaker. On this, we are not going to drop the ball as the House, Honorable Speaker. I therefore plead with you, Honorable Speaker, to ask the leadership that is here present, represented by three capable individuals, to walk to the Harambee House right now, bring that report before this House, so that the House can direct when the gazettement, when the gazettement of those needy areas ought to be done, Honorable Speaker. Otherwise, it is going to be another charade in this House, Honorable Speaker, and this is the only House that never legislates in vain and never puts questions in vain and never asks anything in vain, Honorable Speaker. I therefore plead with you that these three can march to Harambee House right now and bring the report now, and you will give direction as to when the gazettement should be done.
Order MP for Bondo. You don't have to worry whether they're going to crawl or whether they're going to run or walk or fly. The issue is that you want this report to be brought to the floor of the House. The leadership, Baya, how soon can you have that report?
Mr. Speaker, I want to appreciate Gerald Okello's passion and leadership on this matter. Sincerely has raised this matter severally, and the Honorable Speaker had directed that it come to this chamber, I think 3 Wednesdays away. And I want to report to him. I've had a consultation with him. I had the opportunity to speak to the Minister for Public Service, the Honorable J.B. Muturi, a few minutes ago. And he told me, and I'll quote him verbatim, that the report was yes on his table, but because this matter was a multi-agency, multi-sectoral matter, it was taken to the head of public service. And this report is yet to be signed. It has not been signed yet. And it's not in his office, it's not in the office of J.B. Muturi, as you say. It is in the office of the head of public service. And they are still going through the report. And when they are done, the report will be signed. It will be brought to the House for debate. And after that, the gazettement will be done. So that's the report that I have as of now. I've also requested the clerk to write to the head of public service so that the report is expedited and brought to the House. So, Honorable...
fair enough. I think that's a fair undertaking.
I think it's something that we are working on, and with your push, with your guidance, and with your leadership on this matter, I can assure you we will have this report here next week.
It's a fair undertaking. The Honorable MP for Mandera North. Order. You made your point. You took a sufficient time. Yeah, what is it? Yeah, just hold your horse, the MP for Mandera North. Yes. Yes. MP for Bondo. What are you raising again? Nyando, sorry. Please give him the go to the ones at the back. Yeah, but what happened to the mics? They're all dead. Yeah, the Honorable Member of Parliament for Mandera North, is your mic working? Try, check it, see if you can. Oh, yes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, you know, this is a very blessed month, and I want to take this opportunity to wish you, as the chair, and all members of Parliament who profess the Islamic religion, a blessed month of Ramadan, and all Muslims across the country and the globe. Honorable Speaker, on the same context, the people of Mandera, especially Mandera town, who are in the month of Ramadan, have not had power since Ramadan actually began. As we speak right now, the people of Mandera town are going to Bulahawa to get their phones charged and buy cold water and cold drinks from Bulahawa, which is across in Somalia. It is very, very unfortunate that the people of Mandera East have been let down by Kenya Power, that there is no power as at now.
The Honorable Osoro, the Honorable Baya, there's a very important matter being raised by a Member of Parliament, and you're supposed to respond to that.
Honorable Speaker, I am sure you know where Bulahawa is. It is sad that the people of Mandera town are going to get water, cold drinks, and charge their phones in another country because Kenya Power has failed to restore power in Mandera town. It is very, very unfortunate as we speak here. And this is the month of Ramadan, and people are fasting in this kind of heat, yet they can't get cold water in Mandera town because Kenya Power has failed to restore power for the last 2-3 weeks. And it's unfortunate that they are suffering. We want to plead and send a clear message to Kenya Power that they must move with speed, including even this evening, to ensure that there is no power in Mandera town. It's very sad. How do we get power in Somalia, where we say that probably is a failed state? It's not a failed state in terms of power. They're doing their things much better and organizing. How do we have power in Bulahawa? We don't have power in Mandera town. It's very sad.
Honorable, yes, you made your point. Honorable Memusi. Is it on the same? Yes. Are you on the same matter that was raised by the Honorable MP for?
Yes.
Yes, just go to where he is then. He's next to you. The mic next to you is working.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm actually shocked by the fact that Kenyans will be forced to cross over to a neighboring country.
Into Somalia.
Yes. A failed state. But Honorable Speaker, I support the MP. Kenya Power should act with urgency. But the reason why I wanted to catch your eye for a minute is on the issue of hardship allowance. Honorable Speaker, this issue of hardship allowance should be explained not just to this House, but to Kenyans. The rationale behind identifying areas to be classified as hardship area. For example, Honorable Speaker, in Kajiado Central, I have a sub-county called Oloilelai sub-county. If there is a remote place in this country, that is one of them. Teachers are having to commute hundreds of kilometers from schools that are far in. Imagine a teacher having to use a boda every day in the morning, and they have no hardship allowance. Honorable Speaker, this is an issue that must be brought to this House. I have taken up this issue. I've gone to TSC. TSC have said that it is the Ministry of Interior that does the classification. When you go to Ministry of Interior, they pass the ball over to TSC. There's a ping pong. You do not know who is responsible for this. So, Honorable Speaker, this is an issue of great importance because it affects education in marginalized areas.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
I hope the Honorable Osoro and Baya will respond to all this. But let's listen to Honorable Omul Khair, who comes from Mandera. She's a woman rep for Mandera. Please give her the mic.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to speak about the power outage in Mandera. As we speak, Mr. Speaker, knowing that we're in the month of Ramadan, the situation is dire. We have Mandera East, Mandera Town, having no electricity for the last 48 hours, non-stop. And knowing that it's the month of Ramadan, our people are suffering. They're getting ice blocks from across Bulahawa in Somalia. It's unfortunate and shameful. We had 2 gensets delivered by Kenya Power the last 1 month, and it hasn't been working. The supply and the demand, of course, the demand is higher, the supply is, of course, low. And we want Kenya Power to act with speed, because what they're trying to do is play around with the lives of people. We have people, healthcare paralyzed, and businesses collapsing, the elderly, of course, dying or getting shocks from heat waves, Mr. Speaker. Children in dire situation. Mandera, as we speak, even Mandera West, Honorable Speaker, as much as there's power, the situation is dire as well in terms of water. Our people are really suffering, and we want the government to act with speed and Kenya Power to get their act together to ensure that power is restored in Mandera town. And I want to urge the people of Mandera to exercise restraint. I know they know that we've been trying, we've tried our best, but the Kenya Power and Lighting Company that is failing us, that they should have a lot of subra. Thank you.
You made your point, Mulkhair. The Honorable Osoro, you can. Well, would you want to respond to all of them, or you just want to respond to the power issue now? Because the issue of the hardships, which the Honorable Baya has responded, I think, fairly comprehensively.
Yeah, let me add this, Honorable Speaker.
Yes.
As I did say, it has been 1 year since the report was brought to Harambee House. 1 year, Honorable Speaker. What my brother, Honorable Baya, the majority whip is saying is that they are still reading the report a year later, still reading. And the report has moved from the minister to to the office of the office of
Head of Public Service.
Hopes, yeah, to Hopes. Honorable Speaker, if you are going to wait for people to read reports for 1 year, I think now that you've been confronted by twin issues, one of power, and you're going to give direction on the two, Honorable Speaker, it is important that we recognize that the report was brought 1 year ago. It is with the government offices, and it is Parliament that needs this report so that it can be acted upon. So as you give us direction, Honorable Speaker, I request that the report needs to be brought before this House soonest possible, and
Fair enough.
most probably today.
You made your point. The Honorable Osoro, I think, comprehensively respond to both. The two areas that have been mentioned, the power outages in Mandera, and frankly, the whole country in this month of Ramadan, because even in my constituency in the DAP, I wish I was not on the chair. I would have really contributed. We have power rationing. So then on the overall, how you'll engage KPLC and the rest to see that we respect Kenyans in this holy month now.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I first want to thank...
And the issue of also the hardships, yes.
The water, yes. I want to thank the Honorable Bashir for raising this very important matter, Honorable Speaker. And it's indeed unfortunate that in this time, Mandera, that people still rely on power from a neighboring country. Yet they pay taxes in Kenya and they live within this country, they live within the jurisdiction of this country, and they are Kenyans in all rights. So Honorable Bashir and the members that have spoken, is very important. I mean, it really shows that we are representing our people very well. But Honorable Speaker, to answer to that, there has been an ongoing process under the Minister of Energy, Honorable Speaker, to light up the entire country. And if you agree with me, Honorable Speaker, just about 2 or 3 weeks ago, the head of state, alongside the Minister for Energy, Honorable Speaker, signed some agreements with some suppliers, Honorable Speaker, and there is a process to light up the entire region of the Northeastern, Honorable Speaker, as far as I'm concerned. But I do not want, Honorable Speaker, to hold brief for the ministry. I want to commit that in the next week, we will have the Committee of Energy respond comprehensively upon, of course, getting the minister himself before them and answer to the progress they are doing as far as energy is concerned, Honorable Speaker. But on the second point on water, the hardship and water, Honorable Speaker, it is unfortunate that 10 years post-devolution, we are still talking about water challenges. Because it would interest members to know that water is largely devolved. And much of the processes as far as water management is concerned, Honorable Speaker, is actually devolved. As we speak, Honorable Speaker, even as I answer the honorable members that have spoken about the water, a strange disease, a very mysterious disease, has befallen my people, Honorable Speaker, in the village. I mean, from the water. They have taken, today the ministry has given a report that they've been drinking contaminated water, Honorable Speaker. But who answers such? That question, Honorable Speaker, should be answered by the county government. That 10 years post-devolution, we still have challenges of water in our counties, even having been given huge amounts of money, Honorable Speaker, to manage the water challenges in the counties. We need sometimes to ask ourselves this question: what exactly are county governments doing as far as this water challenge is concerned? There is water resource, Honorable Speaker, is becoming very scarce by the day. The climate change issues, you know, we are currently, of course, the sun, like you've said, in the other part of the country is at, I mean, the heat is at 40 degrees, Honorable Speaker, as we speak right now. Nairobi currently is at about 35%, Honorable Speaker, 35 degrees Celsius. For the very first time in my region, Honorable Speaker, we are at 37. A place that rains every day, Honorable Speaker. You know, the other day, Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Kibagendo was saying that walking around the Gusii streets, each person is walking around with their whole bag of, dust. Because when you get to the house, people look like, I don't know how, because it is very, very hot all over, Honorable Speaker. So even as we talk about those challenges, we perhaps need to pose this question to county governments that while the national government should be working on the energy sector, like I've committed, the Energy Committee will handle this, and that I've said that there is a process already of procuring the supplies of energy, Honorable Speaker. like you've seen, you saw the president sign some agreements with some suppliers, Honorable Speaker, and there is a lot of efforts to mitigate the challenges on that part. But on the water, Honorable Speaker, we need to pose this question to the right people. Nairobi, there is a challenge of water. Northeastern, there is challenges of water, Honorable Speaker. Gusii, in all the counties, there is a challenge of water. So we really do not know whether this responsibility, or rather the water issue, should revert back to national government for easier management or remain in the county government. Because that really, Honorable Speaker, may not really require the hardship allowance per se, or the hardship amount per se, money per se. It is actually the prerogative of the county governments to handle that. But instead, they've chosen to spend this money in other, to spend this money in other means, or rather in other forms, Honorable Speaker, through putting in unreliable or unnecessary projects, Honorable Speaker, including moving around in convoys, Honorable Speaker, and carrying goons, and having 50 vehicles, Honorable Speaker, on the way, and hiring cheering squads in functions. Nowadays they even have hired squads, Honorable Speaker, to attend their functions. They have a group of 200, 300, every governor. And this is very particular. Every governor has got a group of about 300 or 400 people on payroll that they move around with. And they tell them to stand or sit in some strategic position just to clap whenever they stand to speak, whether in barrios, whether in churches. That is exactly what they are doing, instead of putting this money in the right place, Honorable Speaker. It is very, very unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate. Sometimes they even direct the people in the county inspectorate, Honorable Speaker, to move around the county, to move their uniforms.
Responding to points of orders that were raised, but...
Okay.
Otiende Amoro, proceed.
Mr. Speaker, mine is a procedural point of order. And I appreciate the fact that 2 points of order were raised, and you've given the majority whip an opportunity not to respond, but to promise to respond. But now the majority whip is taking us on a lecture session of Kisii politics. How is that relevant to the 2 points of orders that were raised? And yet, Mr. Speaker, my substantive point of order is this.
What's your substantive?
We are 2 hours into our session. We have not come to the first substantive business for this afternoon. And some of us here came for a very specific reason. Mr. Speaker, order number 10 is an order on the NADCO. And it's a report that concerns matters of concern to these citizens, including security. As I speak here today, Mr. Speaker, this morning, I woke up to have lost 5 of my constituents. 5 ladies were buried alive, including a young girl of 27 years who is a graduate. I was hoping we would get to this order so that we speak to the very substantive issues of concern to the nation, and we can leave the issues of Kisii and Nyamira politics to another later session. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Osoro. Honorable Osoro, I agree with you entirely that you are not empowered at all. Well, I shouldn't say at all, but at least under our current system and our constitution when it comes to issues when it comes to issues of water. But all I want you to do is proceed and give a definitive undertaking on the issue of, I think you have settled out the issue of the hardships, the report itself, and the issue of the electricity outages in Mandera and many other places. We share your frustrations with you. Even the chair shares that with you. But it's for you to go and change the law so that if the county governments cannot perform in certain areas, the national government has the powers to step in and perform on that, and then, of course, deduct that from their allocations. So there are ways we can do things. But it's not just to stay here helpless and say it's the county government and they're not doing anything. And I think in the National Assembly here, the House needs to be powerfully proactive for the House to come up with the definitive solutions to the problems that are there. Everybody shares with you the frustrations of the county governments. Actually, if there's going to be a referendum right now on whether the county governments should be maintained the way they are, Majority of Kenyans are going to vote in a manner that's going to shock everybody. But then proceed and give a definitive undertaking right now on the issue of the...
Thank you
how
very much.
soon you can have that report in here, or how soon you can report back on the report here, and the issue of when you are going to engage Kenya Power and Lighting on the issue of the power outages in Mandera and all the Muslim areas right now in this Ramadan area period. Proceed.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I really do not want to wish, to correct or rather to respond to what Honorable my learned
Leave the senior counsel alone.
Because
both
whatever
me and
he's
you are
accused me-
legal minds. He's a senior counsel, so just
He's
leave
done the same mistake that he's actually accused me of. While raising a point of order, Honorable Speaker, he's mentioned his constituency, which was unrelated to this issue.
He's
So
an
we should
elder in
actually
the
let-
field, is allowed to make certain small mistakes. So proceed.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and he should leave the radiator politics out of this when we respond to these questions. But having said that, Honorable Speaker, as I was saying, I only gave out examples of, governance structures that are not responsive to the needs of the people. And I've just said that the issue of the water resource is affecting all the counties, including Nairobi, including the counties in Northeastern, and including the counties of Gusii, Honorable Speaker. It really doesn't, it's not related to politics. And what I would say in that line, Honorable Speaker, is that we perhaps need to push the national government to find a way to work along with the county governments, especially where they are totally incapacitated, especially on the water resource, Honorable Speaker, because they've totally failed, and these honorable members can agree with me, they've really failed entirely to provide the water resource. But on the question of energy, Honorable Speaker, like I've said, my report is that once we have the committee constituted tomorrow, latest Thursday, Honorable Speaker, we perhaps give ourselves about 7 days when they go for elections for their new chairman, and then they'll come up with a structure of maybe the itinerary and the way they want to work, and get the report brought, or rather table the report once they're able to finish with their line.
In the interim, given the fact that people are fasting in Mandera, give an undertaking right now on how you're going to engage Kenya Power and Lighting.
In the interim, Honorable Speaker, immediately we finish here, I'll engage the Minister for the CS for Energy and the PS, Honorable Speaker, and then I'll be able to give the answer on Thursday.
Excellent. Done deal. Now, next order. Honorable members, next order. Honorable TJ Kajuang, the chair has ruled the next order. With all due respect to you, you proceed.
Order number 8, the Anti-Money Laundering and Combating of Terrorism Financing Laws Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 5 of 2025, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the laws relating to anti-money laundering and combating of terrorism financing and proliferation financing and for connected purposes. Order number 9, the National Police Service Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 23 of 2024, second reading, resumption of debate.
Yes, there was an honorable member who had a balance of 8 minutes. I think, what was Kipchumba? Kimayo. Honorable Kimayo is not around? Okay. Honorable members, yes, the MP, Madam Mayaka.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker,
Your intervention. Order. He's on a point of order. The Honorable Murugara. Okay, fair enough. Okay, proceed. Yes, Mayaka, proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I stand to support this particular...
We have 1 hour, 2 minutes on this bill.
I stand to support these particular amendments and thank the Honorable Peter Masara for bringing it forth. Because, Honorable Speaker, psychosocial support for our police officers is very, very vital. Because they have one of the hardest tasks of dealing with the citizens, with wananchi, and we need our police officers to be in the right frame of mind. Honorable Speaker, I like the fact that this particular bill will assist in, among other things, ensuring that there's valuable guidelines to our police officers in terms of stress management. And this will also help them to be able to cope with different situations that they are presented with, and also even for their personal development. Because, Honorable Speaker, we don't want to assume that when they are conducting the services that they do give us out there, that the police are not normal human beings. They are normal human beings, and therefore we have to ensure that they always have adequate psychosocial support while doing their job. Honorable Speaker, one of the recommendations that I'm seeing here is also the fact that this particular support should be able to be divulged to different county levels. And actually, Honorable Speaker, this would even be more beneficial to them if it goes right down to the police station, so that they're able to, anytime they want these particular services, then they're able to access them. Honorable Speaker, some of the advantages that will really help in this is because of their mental strength, because mental strength is very important. Secondly, self-esteem. And Honorable Speaker, even as we say that we want to give them this kind of support, we also need to more frequently to be rewarding and recognizing our police officers. Honorable Speaker, we have very few memories of police officers who have done fantastic jobs in this country. Like, for example, I remember my brother Joash Monari, who was given HSC by the president because of what he did in Westlands when he tried to waylay thieves who are going to distress people. Honorable Speaker, we've also seen that police are very human. If you go to TikTok now, we have a lot of police officers who are very popular. We have the famous Solomon Kirago, who is known for dancing Bora Tujienjoy by Diamond, if I may quote. And he's become very popular. The people around where he serves them love the guy because they associate with him, they feel like he's one with them. And these are some of the things that it is coming from him. It is his own self-esteem. But we need to go further than that and ensure that our police are well taken care of. And Honorable Speaker, psychosocial support does not just mean the clinical aspects of it. This is also in terms of just motivating them, in ensuring that their leadership is always present to ensure that the police are not just doing their job on a routine basis. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, this particular amendment, because it's very brief and I don't want to take a lot of time, it has full support. I hope that we will actually ensure that it is implemented, that this is not just paperwork that we are doing, but that actually there will be proper action to ensure that our police have access to this very important support. With those very few remarks, I support and I thank you.
Yes, what's your point of order, TJ Kajwang?
Mr. Speaker, with due respect, this motion has been debated for 2 hours. It was debated last week, and we have also opened it right now.
Yeah.
2 hours, and there is a balance of just about 1 hour or so. If you check from the Hansard, Mr. Speaker, more than 20 speakers have spoken on it. Would I be in order, Mr. Speaker, to call for you to ask the mover to reply? Because it has been very exhausted, and the issues are in the Hansard, and there are several motions which are lined before us. Some of them are very weighty.
Honorable
Honorable
Kajwang, right behind you, there's a member who's interested. In that group, there are members who are interested. Here, there are members who are interested. The rules are very clear. The chair exercises that discretion, but also make sure, order. Also make sure that the democratic rights of certain minority is not muzzled. So, Honorable Murugara, proceed and contribute on the bill.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, yes, I agree with the Honorable TJ that most of the members of the House have actually agreed and supported this bill. But it's also important that we today, because that was then, we also voice a bit of support before we move to the next very important topic or matter on the order paper for this afternoon. Mr. Speaker, allow me to thank the Honorable Masara, because Honorable Masara must have sat down and thought about this bill. He thought through it, and he came up with these very, very important provisions, which he wants they be introduced to the National Police Service Commission Act. Because most of the time, and this is becoming very frequent, that when somebody is employed, everybody thinks a favor has been done to that person, and therefore he should go out there, work, and take care of himself, his family, and anybody else who depends on that person. Nobody sits back to ask how that person is going to work, under what conditions he's going to work, and how it affects that person's mental health. And this applies principally to our police officers, and by extension, to other forces that are disciplined. We've just seen soldiers coming back from Somalia, where they were on a peacekeeping mission, and most of them are in a deplorable state of mind. They've lost it. They've come back as very violent persons who have to be rehabilitated so that they can come back to the normal life of a society. We've seen our police officers all over. Some of them have to be taken to areas which we consider to be hardship. And because they are not used to that kind of life, when they come back to their villages, people think they are mad. And therefore, we now start speaking ill about those who work in the disciplined forces, those who work in the National Police Service, or anywhere else. Therefore, this act by Honorable Masara is timely, that we now need to have programs in place. And we start by legislating for the Kenya Police. And I keep on saying, I have a special interest in the Kenya Police, the National Police Service. I got brothers and sisters who work there, cousins and other relatives. And I always sympathize with everything to do with the National Police Service. Number one, they still do not have what we would call a commensurate pay. They lack that. They are still paid paltry sums of money, which they are supposed to live on and educate their children. And this is becoming a burden to them. They also live in deplorable state where they do not have good houses. Some of them are in tents, others are in makeshift houses where they share a number of families into one room. This is deplorable. So this affects them. And this is why now we have these two sections being introduced by Honorable Masara, that the Commission is now under an obligation as a function of the Commission, the National Police Service Commission, to establish psychosocial units and formulate programs to promote the mental health and well-being of police officers. From time to time, we have these police officers who require rehabilitation. Some of them have ended in Mathare, and Mathare Hospital is not a rehabilitation center. In fact, it demeans them to take them there because we think they got mental illness. So, the police now have to, under the new Section 12A, provide officers with resources for purposes of their mental health. And let nobody ask where these resources will come from. I can assure this country is not as poor as many people think. It's only that sometimes we are questioned how we apply our resources. Whichever way and whatever we do with those resources, let us apply some of those resources to our police officers so that they are given resources to make sure that they do not lose it when they are working. Number two, they shall in every county establish well-equipped centers in offices, camps, training colleges, and communities for police officers to receive the psychosocial support. That from time to time, policemen are human beings. Let them have a place they can go to, even if it is for counseling, even if it is for whatever other help they require from the society, so that they are integrated back. I mean, it's common sense. You got a gun, you're on your duty, and you confronted by a thug. Whom you shoot dead. As he sat in that high court building, as we used to call it those days, he would find himself in tantrums, hallucinating. And he would salute, he would issue commands, and whenever he sat down, he was asked, what was the problem? He would say, I have just seen myself in those airplanes of 1942 to 45, flying over some city and bombing that city. He needed such service. It was not available, and so therefore Chief Justice Cecil Miller was not helped. In fact, it's not just for the disciplined forces. Let's extend this to all our civil servants, and especially those who work in hardship areas, where life is not as normal as it is in other areas. Let's have a way of trying to help them so that they are integrated back into the society to become better persons. And those areas include my own constituency, Tharaka. It's a hardship area. The police officers who go there do not earn any hardship allowance. The civil servants who are there do not earn any hardship allowance. And this is why I was taking it up yesterday to ask, why should Tharaka, for purposes of its civil servants, just like it has done to teachers through TSC, they receive a hardship allowance, as it has happened to judicial officers through JSC, they receive a hardship allowance. Let us also have civil servants in the Raka constituency, in the Egamba-Ngombe sub-county, receiving hardship allowances so that they are able to work better in the country. With those remarks, I beg to support.
The Honorable Matuse, I see your name here. Are you here for something else, or you want to contribute on
Mr.
this?
Speaker, I was in support of the call by the Honorable TJ for the mover to be called to reply.
The Honorable Basil.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't know why members are not very much interested to support the police, considering what police officers are going through and what they do. I know an article report has a lot of interest, particularly with an understanding of broad-based government. But let's talk, at least let's focus on the police, because they have a very significant role, Mr. Speaker. The reason why I actually applaud my brother, Honorable Masara, for bringing this particular bill, the bill of 2023-2024, that is bill number 23 of 2024, is because if you look at our police officers, majority of them, they are extremely stressed. And the source of the stress is emanating from a number of reasons. One of them, very poor working conditions, Mr. Speaker. Like what my brother, Honorable, our council just mentioned about police sharing house. You find you have a family, you are sharing with other police officers at a very deplorable working environment, Mr. Speaker. That definitely will result to stress. Mr. Speaker, if you look at a small country like Namibia, whose economy is actually much weaker or smaller compared to Kenya, they remunerate the police very well. I happened to have been there when I used to work with United Nations, and I can attest to you, Mr. Speaker, Namibia police are not corruptible. And the reason why they are not corruptible is because they are well remunerated. If you look at our country, we talk of police being corrupt. The simple reason they are corrupt is because we have ignored them. We talk of police reforms. No one seems to pay attention to this, Mr. Speaker. Now, if you come to the insurance for our police officers, it's even more worrying, Mr. Speaker. We have security officers who serve as our guards at our homes. I mean, for those who have bodyguards at home, particularly senior members. But also, when we go with police officers, you get very shocking information from our officer, Mr. Speaker. Imagine your officer goes to, a family member of your security bodyguard going to an hospital, and the insurance the officer has is dishonored by the hospital, Mr. Speaker. How do you expect such a person to effectively discharge his or her duties, Mr. Speaker? And these are some of the reasons which are contributing to serious stress. And we say we should not cure symptoms by looking at the cause. So as much as we come up with programs to support psychosocial well-being of our police officers, we must factor what is contributing to this stress, Mr. Speaker, and that is where the rock or where the whole issue starts from, Mr. Speaker. Importantly, if you look at our police officers, Mr. Speaker, now we have an increased cost of living. Of course, you'll be talking of the finance bill, the new taxes. Everyone is feeling the pinch, and their salaries are at the same level, Mr. Speaker. So how do you imagine the police officers to survive under poor working conditions, poor pay, and all these definitely will result to stress? We have been seeing some of the results of stress, Mr. Speaker, where officers have actually committed suicide, taking away their lives, others even shooting their bosses, committing crime when they are supposed to restore order and peace, Mr. Speaker, because of the stress which has built over time, Mr. Speaker. So in a nutshell, Mr. Speaker, what I would recommend as a prioritization or as a way to deal with the issues of psychosocial support or to deal with the stress contributing or which require psychosocial support is one to focus on improving salaries and benefits for our security officers, the police and other security officers in that order, Mr. Speaker. We also need to look at better housing and the living conditions for our police force. Otherwise, we'll keep on talking of psychosocial support, but the main cause of stress, no one is paying attention to that, Mr. Speaker. We also need to look at structuring working hours, Mr. Speaker. Our officers, you find some of them are actually working beyond the stipulated 8 working hours. And even leave days, Mr. Speaker, all that has to be factored so that we can mitigate the causes of stress in order to be able to properly support our officers to be able to discharge the job they're supposed to do, Mr. Speaker. Now, recently, we heard the cries of Gen Zs who are complaining of excessive use of force by our police officers and issues of brutality, abductions, and all this. Mr. Speaker, you may not know, but perhaps one of the reasons why police officers are even using firearm excessively is perhaps because of the stress. Because if someone is stressed, they may want to discharge or to offload the stress by improper use of firearm or even contributing to this police brutality and other vices that are linked to stress management, Mr. Speaker. So for me, before I submit, Mr. Speaker, I would recommend that proper stress management training need to be initiated, targeting police officers across the country, and more so, if possible, also look at the other discipline forces, those who are working at the borders, etc. So with those few remarks, I submit, Mr. Speaker, and I'm ready to work on amendments to that effect. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Well said. The member for Siaya County. That's the Honorable Mbaka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. My contribution is going to be very short, but it's a story. Recently, I was giving bursaries to students, and while giving them, I also was giving them some inspirational talk. I told them that there are many opportunities they have in life for those who want to become doctors, those who want to become pilots, journalists, and all that. One student told us that he wanted to be a policeman. The entire crowd of students laughed.
The member coming in, go back to the bar and bow. Then you walk in. Okay.
Yes, my story continues. The lot of students who are there laughed at him when he said he wanted to be a policeman. And when I asked, why are you laughing? They say, oh, what a miserable job. Who can be a policeman really in this day and age? They laughed at him because they associated the position of a policeman as one of suffering, one where people are poorly paid, people are working under difficult circumstances, poor remuneration, they live in very poor and deplorable housing. And the entire story about policemen emerged during that time. The picture that came out was that nobody wants to become a policeman simply because of the suffering and the degradation of their lives that we are seeing today. I therefore support this bill because the whole world, the whole country knows that a policeman suffers psychologically. They even told me that how can you be a policeman when you carry a gun and you can kill yourself? So many have killed themselves, so many have committed suicide, so many have killed their children and their families because they are stressed, they are going under psychological trauma. And so the image of a policeman is so negative, is so bad. I will still recommend that a lot must be done for them as part of police reforms. We not only need to increase their salaries, but their living conditions are so shameful, is so bad, because they are just single rooms which are built with tins, and they are very old, and there's no water around. It's terrible. And I recommend also that wherever they are working, where they stay, even entertainment should be introduced. They should have some form of entertainment for them to relax after a hard day's work. They need to relax, chat, and play some games to make them feel that they are part and parcel of human life, because that is also part of therapy, is part of treatment. When they are going through stress after a hard day's work, they need to sit somewhere with each other, chat, and play some games, some darts around. They can play football, they can watch television or films. Let them have some comfort where they are working. So far, that is not even thought of. Policemen are not even promoted. They complain so much, and you can understand the situation under which they are going through. They are in the streets, controlling vehicles the whole day, in the rain and in the sun. Nobody gives a damn. And so I will support this bill because it is for the good of our security team, the police, that need to be sorted out so that psychologically they are made human. They feel like everybody else, they are on equal terms, and they are treated much better, and better than the way they are currently being treated. That way, they will serve us better. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Well said. Members, join me in welcoming and recognizing the presence of the students from St. Thomas Aquinas Chani Secondary School, Mkibwezi West, Makueni County. They are seated in the public gallery. You do that by stamping your feet. The member for Baringo, the Honorable Ecomas, is this your constituency? Or is in the general area? Give Ecomas 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, Chad is in the neighboring Kibwezi East constituency, but allow me on my own behalf and on behalf of the Honorable Jessica Mbalo, because Kibwezi constituency was once one and we remain the same people, to welcome the students of Chani to the House of Parliament where we debate. make laws, make policies appropriate for their own learning and for the well-being of the people of Kenya. Karibuni sana bunge.
Thank you. Now for Baringo.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, and I also want to take this opportunity to support this amendment bill by my friend and colleague, Honorable Masara, on National Police Service Commission, which is on specifically on psychosocial support and mental health in our police force. Mr. Speaker, if you keenly listen to what members have contributed, you realize all of us are in agreement that we need a lot of attention given to our police force, specifically on the problems they go through every day. But if, on the other converse, you realize that I think everyone needs this mental support or psychosocial support, specifically people who work in government and people who give services, specifically public service. And for police, I want to specifically single out women police. It is so hard to be a policeman in Kenya. It's so much work to be and work as a policeman. You work day and night through shifts. Many times you don't have a lot of leave days. But being a woman police is actually the bigger challenge. And it is where you are put together in this accommodated housing, and you share rooms, share small houses together with your family. You have poor sanitation. The amenities within that place is very pathetic. If you visit them sometimes, because I have one relative that I've ever visited, and you realize they only share and they partition these rooms and houses using curtains. So whatever happens there, whether people are quarreling, whether people are fighting, or whatever thing my honorable colleague is telling me about conjugal rights, Honorable Betty Maina, and it is becoming a problem because this is a problem that all of us understand. And when you listen to policemen, much as they cannot tell you most of these problems, they always go through a lot. Mr. Speaker, every time you wake up at 5 a.m., if you are a early riser, you'll always find a policeman already on the road, pushing out jam and controlling. When you go when we go as members of parliament to high-end or dignitary events, policemen you will always find them already in the venue or in the place, and you will always leave them. And these are people who have decided, and they always dedicate themselves fully. This psychosocial support, as much as other departments also might need it, but singling out this police is that they are going to be very important to their day-to-day life. And again, I am also looking through the amendment. I don't think it's also going to be so good for us to put aside a small area where they'll be taken when they have problems or when they have these social mental issues. Because when you isolate them again, you generally give them, probably create more problems. But we will need to create an environment where it is equally, accommodative, so that when you have a problem, you are able to talk to your colleague or your this desk within the jurisdiction of your workplace, and also where you stay or where you live. And they are also taking care of their families, because when you are a policeman and you are transferred very far from your home or where you are not able to meet with your parents and like any other public service, it is also very important because police handle different situations, like dead bodies. You are just graduated from police, and the first instant is to be sent to areas where there is criminality, like you're handling bodies, probably in a morgue. You have never accident scenes. where you are just asked to go and pick bodies. Sometimes you find the people you are probably, these bodies is probably people you know, and you might not have to go somewhere else or get an opportunity to express the feelings you got through when you are handling these situations. And specifically for women police, if you look at the way they, when they change their uniforms, sometimes I don't know whether their regulations in terms of uniform is also considered, because sometimes policemen, if you check clearly, most of them don't even have, complete uniforms. And you find torn shoes, sometimes very torn clothes, and because it is uniform that they must do every day, those are things that might probably contribute to lack of confidence and lack of, giving themselves this ability to work indiscriminately. And that one causes issues like corruption. So that's why they go around and collect some few coins and fees around and rent taking, so that they can take care of the little remuneration they get through. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, I want to say this is a very important bill, and it should not only stop at police, it should also stop in other departments of government, that is public service, so that we can have this as an ambience and good services given to people. The other day, I was very happy to see DIG and the IG giving out flowers on the streets during Valentine's Day. It was a good gesture, that these are people who are part of us in the society, and we need to support them more. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well said. Next on the board is the member for Busia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support fully this National Police Service Amendment Bill. I applaud the Honorable Member who has drafted it, Honorable Peter Masara. He has played with a full deck this time. Our policemen are the people we look up to for security and depend on them to solve things that many of us, be it the president to the village elder, things that if we were to face them ourselves, we would not even know how to begin. But what is gutting me is that the policemen suffer in silence. I think they have been trained to persevere, endure a lot of pain in silence. And yet we forget that they are human beings. It is a time in our country that we either sink or swim when we are amending any laws, so that we make something that can be viable, something that can work. You think if your son or daughter was in the same docket, how would you want them? So they have to ask for fuel to come. And that must change, because I don't think anybody with passion, wherever they want to be or really yearned and fought to belong there, can want to just relax and see things go bad. These policemen, they lack this personal development. Looking fit or having been recruited because you are fit does not really mean that they are well trained to understand security issues and policy making, everything. We have various departments that the police, whether they like it or not, they find themselves on that desk. Gender desk, many other, counseling, guidance, and yet themselves, they need counseling. So the policemen need now and then to be trained, to be equipped every time, and those who perform well to be acknowledged, like celebrating them. We hardly celebrate our policemen. We are full of complaints here and there. Their salary, if you looked at the pay slip, they depend on loans, and if you looked at how they have been deducted, there is nothing on that pay slip. So how do you, when you are so stressed, how do you even handle any matter
and yet you are also stressed yourself. So we need to up our game on how we handle matters to do with security. A nation, any nation that is stable, the security department must be well beefed up, equipment-wise, and people who are knowledgeable, people who look also happy to do the job. Their salaries, allowances, hardship allowances, commuting allowances, they don't have. Many times when we are driving, maybe going far places, like I went to Marsabit one time in Kajiado, the policemen, after their duty, they are on the road asking for a lift, for a ride, to be taken to where they stay. Meaning they do not have means after work. They survive most of the time. So we need to see the policemen actually being looked after, and when they go home, maybe after retirement, they must be taken care of as well until they die, celebrated well, like people who died on the line of duty, people who served and risked, endangered their lives because of taking care of their nation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
We have the member for Kitui West. She's in the house. Then you have the member for Kisii. Member for Kitui West. Member for Kisii, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support I support Honorable Masara for bringing this very important matter, because security is like food. When there is peace, the country is happy. After high school, Mr. Speaker, I visited my aunt, I will not say the place, whose husband was a police officer. I honestly didn't like where they sleep, because any activity which was happening at my auntie's place, any activity, you hear what I'm talking about, it could be heard in the neighborhood, Mr. Speaker. You have the children, yeah, the kids are sleeping in that house, then in the morning they're asking...
Honorable Buyer, what's out of order?
What's out of order? She didn't say much, she just said any activity.
Honorable Speaker, you know activities have names. And you know, this is a house where you put proper records, specificities, and you know, things that so please tell us, what are these activities that make police officers' homes not for people not be able to sleep? Please.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
No,
Thank you.
The honorable member has a choice of words to use, and she's already said she didn't like the situation. So I think it makes it even worse if you're going to ask a member to go on and start describing what she calls activity. But Honorable Donya, you have the choice to proceed to argue your case the way you like it best.
Honorable Bayer doesn't know that Donya says, as it is, conjugal rights. Is that okay with you? Because they are not, no one says that they are not supposed to do it. It's an activity. Yeah. So thank you very much. That's my cup of coffee. So, today, anyway, Mr. Speaker, you can imagine kids are
the member walking to the chair. That is not your place to walk in, because there's a member speaking. You should never be between a member and the speaker. Would you please just go back and walk behind her?
Or bend.
Thank you. But it's like he's seated. Oh, thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, I was explaining that children are like a magnet. They tap everything. Why are you interrupting when I'm putting a very good message for our police officers? Now, Mr. Speaker, if we could even improve where they stay. We have the affordable housing. If we pass this over to the police officers, because, Mr. Speaker, you can imagine a police officer whose maybe wife is in the village, you are staying with a police officer whose wife is with them, and their atmosphere is not pleasing. That in itself, because we are talking of psychology and mental, that in itself, Mr. Speaker, is total torture, or someone who has been divorced. Another part, when they die, you will find that they've been sent about 50 police officers to come and send off their colleague. But they even don't have a good contribution to make to the family. That dictates how horrible, how they wallow in abject poverty, Mr. Speaker. I even wanted to be a police officer, by the way, when I was in class 7, before I realized my dream of becoming a journalist. Until that time I visited my aunt, I said, no, I don't think if I can cope up. So we are really sorry for their state, but we thank Honorable Masara for this motion, and I hope, Bill, this time round something will be done. Let us not speak, we debate, but we have some news like in 2 months' time or the next budget. Parliament has allocated this and this amount of money for this activity. People will applaud what we are doing. We only don't talk, but we also actualize our moves. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
No, there's nothing. Don't know what Yende, you are senior, you know the rules. She's just completed her contribution. There's nothing out of order. Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Speaker, you know, you are allowed to intervene even on behalf of your neighbors, like my neighbor, the Honorable Dipo Kwame. Mr. Speaker, you made a correct ruling that a member should not come in between the Speaker and the member contributing. But Mr. Speaker, Honorable Dipo Kwame does not gain sufficient elevation to block you from the person speaking. Can he be exempt from that particular standing order? Thank you.
The Honorable Dipo has his mouth. The Honorable Dipo has his mouth and his legs. I'm sure he can speak for himself and work for himself. The Honorable Adipo.
Mr. Speaker, sir,
do you confirm that you are seeking exemption?
This is what I wanted to comment on, that the honorable member here is totally out of order himself, because there is no standing order upon which he can make such statement.
The member for Kisi, the Honorable?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I don't think the Honorable, my senior Otende, is in order. You cannot define a man's elevation and height. He does not have knowledge of that. So he's completely out of order for trying to define the elevation and the height of a man. You can't do that, not as a man.
Of course, the Honorable Mayaka should know better than Otiende. Because the Honorable Mayaka should know better than Otiende in this kind of matter. The Honorable Otiende, you have no experience on this kind of matters. You are free to consult the Honorable Mayaka so that you get to know about elevations and this The member for Nandi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to support this amendment to this bill, and appreciate the Honorable Member, Honorable Masara, for having gone through this bill and having been able to accurately flag the inadequacies that are in this bill. Honorable Speaker, the mental health has been an issue that all of us are concerned about. We have been concerned for a very long time, and I'm glad that we are finally making the right decisions and actually doing what needs to be done for us to be able to sort it out. Honorable Speaker, the fact that this one has been anchored in law with the hope that the honorable members of this House are going to pass this amendment to this bill, we are then going to have a structured way and manner that we are going to deal with mental health issues, especially in the police force. And Honorable Speaker, we must also appreciate the kind of work that the police force does in this country. It does the job that all of us cannot do. They handle the cases and the situations that all of us do not have the capacity to actually handle. And it is only fair that we have or we give them a platform where they can be able to deal with the issues and the things that they have had to deal with, the things that are very difficult and hard, the Honorable Speaker. Members have spoken to the kind of situations that the police are called to sort, issues to do with dead bodies, issues to do with rotten bodies, issues to do with domestic violence, issues to do with robbery, very obscene situations, Honorable Speaker, and these people are able to handle them. And I'm happy today, Honorable Speaker, that we are going to put this in law, and we want to ask the people who are tasked with the responsibility of doing the implementation. Because, Honorable Speaker, it is one thing to have a very progressive provision in terms of how to sort out a situation. It is another thing also to have the implementing authorities do exactly that, then we can be able to reap or be able to get the results that we desire. Honorable Speaker, it must also be noted that every 100 shillings invested on the well-being of an employee will be able to give that particular institution at a profit, so to speak, Honorable Speaker, of not less than between 300 shillings and 500 shillings, Honorable Speaker. And this can never be an investment in vain, Honorable Speaker. Again, Honorable Speaker, we must be able to relate the mental health of an institution and its employees, or the employees of an institution, and the output, Honorable Speaker. When you go to an institution, Honorable Speaker, or a business that pays attention to the mental wellness of their employees, they have a very low desertion rates, Honorable Speaker. The productivity in that particular institution or business, Honorable Speaker, is very high because they are paying attention to the mental wellness of their people. Honorable Speaker, I stand here today a very sad person because last night it came to my attention that more than 4 employees of an institution, a very good institution in this country, are actually in a rehabilitation center. Why? Because the working conditions in that entity are wanting. And Honorable Speaker, allow me to shame the management of that institution, which is actually KCC, that how do you sit as a management? How do you sit as a leadership and watch your employees, all of them, Honorable Speaker, and they end up in a rehabilitation center because of mental issues, because of the difficulties of their working environment. So, Honorable Speaker, this is despicable, and we must all rise up to the occasion that if we have a leadership position, we must endeavor to make sure that the working environment, Honorable Speaker, is safe and it can ensure that we have productivity. And Honorable Speaker, this matter must be taken seriously, because if we don't pay attention to this, we will be needed to build more rehabilitation centers. And I agree and I support, Honorable Speaker, the notion that we better prevent it than be able to cure it, because first, we do not have the capacity or adequate capacity to be able to cure mental illness, Honorable Speaker. So it is better for us to do prevention, and I think this bill coming to this House today is a very good indicator that we are now walking the talk of we have to deal with mental issues, Honorable Speaker. So I support this particular amendment on mental health, and I support also the amendment that has been made to the Commission and its functions, Honorable Speaker, so that they have more functions, so that they can be able to sort out more problems that are facing our police forces. Others, Honorable Speaker, we appreciate the kind of work that the disciplined forces in this country do. We really appreciate them for it. Probably we've not been able to show the appreciation, Honorable Speaker, with material things, but they should know that we actually appreciate it. And going into the future, Honorable Speaker, we must be able to ensure that they feel appreciated even with material things as they handle this very tough job that they have as policemen, Honorable Speaker. I support this amendment, and I urge the Honorable House to be able to support it as well. Thank you.
Correct. Member for Narok North. Member for Narok North, you want to speak on this matter? The Honorable Pareyo, you request to speak on this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support this amendment by Honorable Peter Musara. Police are a very important unit in this country, and the work they do, I think, is the work that we all need to appreciate. And we need to look into their salaries, because there is no way we can support them if we don't give them money that is enough to take care of their families. When you look at the police that are taking care of the banks, When we need, when exams are there, they are the first people to be there. But this situation they live in, Mr. Speaker, have changed them and reduced them to beggars. These days, when you see a policeman, you start preparing your handbag because he always talk of nja, nja, nja everywhere. Because they are forced to say so because of the conditions they live in. Look at the houses they live. Just take a day to go to the line, they call it a line, where they live. These people have no bathrooms, they have no toilets. So you look at them and sympathize with them. So as Kenyans, we really need to take care of our police and those that are taking care of us in terms of security. Because they are all of them suffering. And what they are doing is not anything that we can do. Some of them are the whole day taking care of the banks, nights, making sure that we are all secured. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, I support these amendments and would really appreciate if we can all of us come together and make sure that we take care of our police. We appreciate the work they do, and this is a very important bill that will take care of the conditions of our police. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable members, the time allotted for debate on this bill has lapsed, and it's now my chance to call the move of the bill, the Honourable Masara, to reply.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, before I reply, I want to donate some few minutes to Honorable Benziba to at least say something before I reply. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Benziba.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Pia mimi nisimame kwa miongoni mwa wanaunga mkono maslaha ya ofisa wa usalama wa ndani. Wanafanya jukumu kubwa sana. Huu usalama wote ulioko katika taifa hili ni jukumu lao. Ingawa wako ambao wanafanya matatizo na makosa, lakini sio wote. Maslaha yao yaangaliwe zaidi, kwa sababu mimi Mheshimiwa Spika nimefanya kazi ya polisi miaka 9. Ile shida nimeipata ni kubwa mno. Nimehangaishwa Kenya nzima. Tunatolewa station hii miezi 6, unapelekwa hii miezi 6. Na kitu tunatembea nayo, ilikuwa tunatembea tu na box ambalo tunabebea chakula na safari bed. Unaingia katika situations nyingine, hema zinakuwa ni matope tupu, na hapo mahali ndo tunapika. Nimefanya katika kikosi cha GSU, ninajua zile shida wanapitia hawa watu. Kwa hivyo ni vyema tuangalie maslaha yao. Bima lazima waekewe. Wanakwenda kule wanapata ulemavu, wanarudi majumbani mwao, wanakaa wanateseka familia zao, watoto wao hawasomi vizuri, wanahamishwa hapa na pale. Wao wanajengewa shule ya college ambao ni ya police officers, wawe watoto wao wanaishi pale kwa uzuri, ili kusudi wao pia wana nafasi ya kufanya kazi kwa utulivu. Mheshimiwa Spika, wanaishi katika hali ngumu sana. Wanalala katika sehemu ambayo kuna gawanywa na nguo tu leso. Katikati mmoja yuko upande huu, mmoja yuko upande huu. Na inafika wakati mmoja anapewa duty ya usiku, mwingine yuko pale. Na sengine mke wake pia amemgurisha, amekaa hapo. Wewe utakwenda kufanya kazi namna gani? Si ndio hapo inatokea sababu wanapiga risasi ovyo. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kweli hawa watu lazima waangalie maslaha yao, na wao pia wafanye uaminifu kwamba wananchi wakubali, wakishika mtu wajue kwamba huyu kweli ameshikwa ana makosa. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, nimesimama na mshukuru ndugu aliyeleta hili swala hili kwamba anaangalia maslahi.
So, Masara, you can proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to continue informing these hours that the work of police officers, in most cases, Mr. Speaker, it is a very exhausting job, a dangerous work condition, regular encountering highly distressful situation that exposes them to trauma daily, Mr. Speaker. The exposure combined with the demands of family life and social expectation can lead to debilitating stress, job burnout, anxiety, post-trauma stress disorder, depression, and even suicidal indication. Mr. Speaker, in order that it is essential that the police officer have access to counseling and psychosocial support services, which are vital for maintaining their well-being and enabling them to function optimally, both professionally and as a personal level. Mr. Speaker, the bill itself is a product of so many supports, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I mentioned when I was moving the second reading, Mr. Speaker, this particular amendment is a product of this 12th Parliament. I was in the Committee of Administration and National Security for 5 years, Mr. Speaker. I went around this country, out of the 47 counties. Mr. Speaker, I went to almost 27 of them. Mr. Speaker, I want to appreciate the police officers who we gave opportunity to give us their version of life. As a result of my interaction with the police officers all over this country, including those who are working in refugees camps, Mr. Speaker, that's why I came up with this particular amendment. Mr. Speaker, before even I proceed, I want to appreciate the former chairman, the late Paul Koinange, who was very passionate about police officers. Through his effort and support, that's why he enabled me to pursue this line to help police officers. Mr. Speaker, through the contribution of many members, I've heard their concern. They have raised fundamental issues on the welfare of our police officers in Kenya, not limited to housing, health, salary, living condition, and so many things, Mr. Speaker, including mobility. Mr. Speaker, but what I want to say is that I want to encourage members that let us fast track this bill, because despite those challenges, when you have a sound mental health, you can navigate. But with all those problems the police officers are facing, when you add also to mental issue and psychological issues, it becomes a disaster. Mr. Speaker, I want to take you through a report of Health Task Force of 2020. There's a very serious report. The content of that report is indicating that in every 10 police officer, one has a mental issue. In every 10, one has a mental issue. That means you may not know if your bodyguard has a mental issue. You may not know that your OCS is having a mental issue. You may not know the OCPD. You may not know who is having this mental issue, because based on this report, in every 10 officer, one is having a mental challenge. What is the remedy? The remedy is to fast track this particular amendment to the National Police Service Commission Act, so that it can be a mandatory mandate of the National Police Service Commission to institute or to initiate a psycho support centers in every county. Honorable Speaker, the original version of my amendment was to establish a psycho-social support center in every divisional headquarters. But because of the financial consent of this country, we said it is better we start it at the county level, so that progressively in future they can be introduced in every divisional headquarter, and eventually, if possible, to every police station, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that if also, just based on that report of mental health task force of 2020, the report is indicating that it represents various psychological trauma stress disorder, which represent in various disorder and deviance like assault. In assault, the assault 14%, that's according to the report, murder 30%, suicide 90%, and homicide 17%. Mr. Speaker, such a report is worrying. Therefore, I want to ask members of this particular August House, will be remembered, even if we have left these hours, if we can fast track such important bills to be enacted into law, so that we can help our men and women in uniform. Mr. Speaker, sometimes last year, I was so saddened when a very good police officer at Oruba police station, just few meters from my home, committed suicide as a result of stressful life. Mr. Speaker, if we lose one officer, the kind of losses we make, the family, the wife, the children become orphans, the wife become a widow. We use extra money to train, recruit, and train other officers. We subject the families of the deceased to several issues even after the death, because even their benefits takes ages. I know of many police officers from my constituency who died long time ago, and the wife and the children cannot access their benefit. Mr. Speaker, to avoid such a situation, this bill needed to be enacted like yesterday. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, as I proceed, I want to appreciate all stakeholders, and I want to encourage, as we'll be proceeding to the third reading of this bill, Mr. Speaker, for members to read the committee report, the current Committee on Administration and Internal Security, led by Honorable Gabriel Tongoyo. Mr. Speaker, they really supported me. Mr. Speaker, the entire committee, the stakeholders, when we were meeting and I was giving my views and I read their report, all their recommendation was that this bill need to be enacted. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I want to appreciate the clerk's office, the speaker's office, the legal teams, all my colleagues, my friends, those who contributed in one way or the other to ensure that this bill reach where it is today, that their support is really appreciated by myself, and I believe I've gotten a lot of calls from many police officers, or those whom I don't know even where they got my number, to appreciate what the contents of this bill. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, as we proceed, I'm requesting the House Business Committee to prioritize this bill so that it can go to the next level, so that even before the end of the next budget cycle, we have a bill so that the National Police Service Commission can have a mandate where they allocate money based on the law, not on the goodwill of those who are in office. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I have accepted and agreed that we can enrich this bill so that it can benefit the targeted group. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and may God bless you. And in future, Mr. Speaker, I acquired a title doctor, so when you'll be inviting me in most occasions, kindly add it, because it's not something which can be taken for granted. Those who honored me with that will be very much happy if it is included in my identification. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
So Dr. Masara, end by saying, I beg to reply.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to reply and request that we defer the putting of the question as to the next sitting of this House, pursuant to Standing Order number 53.3, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, and well said, Dr. Masara. And all members, his request for deferment of putting the question on this particular bill for second reading will be deferred to the next time it's read in the order paper. Next order.
Order number 10, report of the National Dialogue Committee and the report of the Multisectoral Working Group on the realization of the 2/3 gender principle.
The Honorable Gitonga Murugara. This is your chance for this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me to move that this House adopts the joint report of the National Assembly Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs and the Senate Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights on its consideration of the report of the National Dialogue Committee, NADCO, and the report of the Multisectoral Working Group on the realization of the 2/3 gender principle laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 16th January 2025. Honorable Speaker, the long-awaited NADCO report is now here with us and is ready for debate because the country is awaiting its outcome to possibly take certain steps in a certain direction on the political arena. Mr. Speaker, sir, the NADCO itself succeeded what was called the bipartisan committee, where the National Assembly and the Senate established a committee jointly to try and resolve the issues outstanding as at March, April 2023.
I thought this was a joint report. What's out of order?
Mr. Speaker, I need your direction, and ordinarily I do not interrupt my chairman, Murugara, because I'm a member of that committee. But I did write to the speaker, the substantive speaker, a letter dated 27th February 2025, and I had hoped that the substantive speaker would have given some directions. If the substantive speaker did not give directions, then we may, or you may consider this, and I would still be happy if you pronounce yourself and we proceed. I brought to the substantive speaker's attention that the report that is being considered, the instant report, is a joint report of the National Assembly and the Senate. But Mr. Speaker, last year, a report had been tabled which was also a product of our committee, the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, which considered the very NADCO report and which submitted its report, which was tabled in this House on 9th October 2024. I had sought the substantive speaker's attention and direction on how we would then treat the two, and whether indeed it would not be in order that as we are considering the instant report, we can be allowed or indeed to look at the two reports jointly. And the reason for that, Mr. Speaker, is that in the report that was tabled last year, a number of members of the committee did dissent in a few places. The Honorable T.J. Kajwang was one, the Honorable Dawood Aden was another, and myself, in very specific points. And I thought it would benefit this House if in the course of our contribution, we are allowed to refer to those points of dissent, which are not in the instant report. Now, without therefore derailing it, I would be very happy if you pronounced yourself and allowed us to do that without appearing, because it is not a dissent on the entire report. It is a minority opinion in very specific areas that we had pointed out. That's the direction I wanted. Thank you. And I'm happy to table that letter if need be.
Honorable Tiende, was this report tabled, the other report you're referring to, was it tabled and debated in this House?
It was tabled on 9th of October, and I had brought this to the Speaker's attention so that we could get clarity as to what happened after it was tabled.
So it's not been debated?
To the best of my knowledge, it has not been debated.
Okay. So my direction on this matter is that we shall proceed as it is now. Then the next time this report comes for the debate, we'll be able to give communication on the issue the Honorable Tiende has raised.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to confirm that the first report by the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee was actually tabled, but later on, the House Business Committee had to actually shelve that report in favor of a joint report, which is what is before the House and which is being debated today. And I've always agreed with the Honorable Tiende Amolo that the dissents that were in there should actually be points of argument while we are debating this report. Mr. Speaker, sir, the National Assembly and the Senate established the National Dialogue Committee, that is NADCO, via resolutions passed on 16th August 2023 and 29th August 2023, respectively, to, among other things, facilitate dialogue and consensus building and recommend appropriate constitutional, legal, and policy reform on issues of concern to the people of Kenya in line with the Constitution and the laws of the Republic of Kenya and respecting the functional and the institutional integrity of state organs. To this end, the NADCO submitted its report to Parliament with the proposals to amend the Constitution and various statutes. The National Assembly and the Senate adopted the NADCO report on 22nd and 21st February 2024, respectively. Following the adoption of the NADCO report by the two houses, the speakers of the two houses issued concurrent communications on 5th March 2024, in which they directed the National Assembly, Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs, and the Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs, and Human Rights of the Senate to hold joint sittings to do three things. The three things were to consider proposals to amend the Constitution and recommend to the houses the manner of actualizing the recommendations of the NADCO on amendment of the Constitution. Number two, consider any proposed amendments to statutes or enactments of new statutes that may be consequential to the proposed amendments in the Constitution. And finally, submit a report to the houses, recommending the manner of actualizing the recommendations of the NADCO report. Mr. Speaker, sir, the speakers and the leaders of majority and minority parties of both houses deliberated on the modalities for implementing the recommendations of the report and agreed as follows. A, to refer the proposals to amend the Constitution to the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs of the National Assembly and the Senate Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs, and Human Rights for consideration. The draft Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2024 by NADCO is actually annexed to the report, and members are encouraged to obtain a copy of the report so as to look at the proposed amendment bill. Number two, to introduce the following legislative proposals in the National Assembly. Number one, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Amendment Bill 2024. Number two, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Amendment Bill 2024. Number three, the Leader of Opposition Bill 2024. And finally, the National Government Coordination Amendment Bill 2024. Number C, to introduce the following legislative proposals in the Senate. One, the Elections Offences Amendment Bill 2024. The Elections Amendment Bill 2024. Number three, the Statutory Instruments Amendment Bill 2024. And finally, the Political Parties Amendment Bill 2024. Mr. Speaker, sir, with the exception of the legislative proposal on the Leader of Opposition Bill 2024 and the National Government Coordination Amendment Bill 2024, all the other proposals have been published, some have been passed, and others are at an advanced stage of consideration by the two houses. The two remaining bills are yet to be published because they do require constitutional amendment. Therefore, until that amendment is effected, those two other proposed bills cannot be considered. Furthermore, while the framework for realization of the two-thirds gender principle in Parliament was one of the issues that the National Dialogue Committee had been tasked to address, the NADCO, in its report, recommended that the multi-sectoral working group, MSWG, finalizes its work and recommends to Parliament a framework for the implementation of the two-thirds gender principle. As it is very well known, this is one of the thorny issues in this House, exactly on how we can go about attaining the two-thirds gender rule, because that has never been agreed on. Subsequently, on the 27th of February 2024, and I'm referring to Annexure number 5 of the joint report, the Speaker of the National Assembly notified the House that he was in receipt of the report of the multi-sectoral working group on the realization of the 2/3 gender principle, which is Annexure 6, recommending amendments to the Constitution, the Elections Act, and Political Parties Act through the following proposals. A, the proposed Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2024, the proposed Elections Amendment Bill 2024, and the proposed Political Parties Amendment Bill 2024. On 14th March 2024, an addendum to the report of the multi-sectoral working group on the realization of the 2/3 gender principle, which is Annexure 7 of the joint report, was submitted to Parliament. The report contained a revised draft of the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2024, and that is Annexure number 8. To this end, the committee held joint sittings on the 7th and the 16th April 2024 to consider the NADCO report. However, due to the conflicting schedules of the two houses, the committees were unable to finalize the consideration of the NADCO report within the initial 45 days. Consequently, as the JLAC chairperson, I requested the Right Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly to extend time for consideration of the NADCO report by another 45 days, and to authorize the National Assembly Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs to conduct sittings independent of the Senate Committee. This request was granted, and the National Assembly Committee therefore held sittings on 19th, 24th September 2024, where they deliberated on the NADCO report and considered proposed constitution amendment bills by NADCO and by the MSWG, and they tabled its report in the House on the 9th of October 2024. Similarly, the Senate Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs, Human Rights considered the NADCO report and the MSWG reports, but they did not table its report to pave way for harmonization of the recommendations of the two committees on the implementation of the two reports. Mr. Speaker, sir, consequently, the two committees therefore reconvened on 2nd December 2024 to deliberate on and harmonize the recommendations of both committees on the actualization of the proposals contained in the NADCO and the MSWG reports. Thereafter, the committees adopted their joint report on 4th December 2024. In undertaking the assignment, the committees took note of the report of the multi-sectoral working group on the realization of the 2/3 gender rule, observed that the report of and the draft Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill proposed by the same group should be read and considered as part of the NADCO report. That recommendation is actually in our report. This was on the basis that the realization of the 2/3 gender principle was one of the areas that NADCO was mandated to address, and thus NADCO deferred consideration of the matter to allow the multi-sectoral working group to comprehensively address the issue, including proposing appropriate amendments to the Constitution and to any relevant statutes that touch on the 2/3 gender principle. Honorable Speaker, the two committees covered all aspects and gave its recommendation on the realization of the NADCO report. The committees deliberated on all the clauses contained in the proposed bills, proposing amendments to the Constitution, and made observations as contained in the joint report. Further, the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2024, proposed by the multi-sectoral working group on the implementation of the 2/3 gender principle, proposes to implement the 2/3 gender principle by way of gender top-up through party lists. The committees considered the draft bill and made its observations as contained in Chapter 3 of the joint report, which we kindly urge members to obtain copies and read so that you can enrich your debate on the matter. Chapter 4 of the joint report, therefore, provides a roadmap for actualization of the proposed amendments, including the legal framework on the process of amending the Constitution. Honorable members will note that there are two ways of amending the Constitution in this country: the parliamentary initiative and the popular initiative, which is known as the referendum. Honorable Speaker, to conclude, Chapter 5 of the